All right, everyone, welcome back. I hope you're still doing well. We're still sitting here with the new Ludwig Total Percussion Pad. In this video, we want to do something a little bit different. If you've been following along in the series of videos so far, all of the videos that we've been doing have been focusing on the audio output capabilities of this unit. So what does that mean? What that means is that so far, everything we've been doing with it, whether that be unboxing it or going through the 20 built-in kits, modifying the built-in kits to suit our particular requirements, adding extra trigger pads, or even building our own user kit from scratch, has all been focused on using the sounds that are pre-programmed into this unit. So far, when we've been hitting any one of the 9 built-in pads or any of the external trigger pads, what happens is that triggers one of the pre-programmed sounds that's built into the unit. It then sends that sound out of these 2 1/4-inch outputs into my audio interface and then into my computer, and then ultimately out of whatever speakers you're watching these videos on. What we want to do in this video is we want to explore the MIDI capabilities of this unit. So we're actually going to bypass all of the built-in sounds. What we're going to do is we're still going to be playing the 9 built-in pads as well as the 4 external triggers. And what that's going to do is it's going to create a series of MIDI instructions, basically. Those, at least at the moment, those MIDI instructions are going to be sent out of the MIDI output jack, the 5-pin MIDI output jack, into the 5-pin MIDI input jack on my audio interface, and then into my computer. Now, if you take a look at my computer screen, you'll notice that I have a series of tracks here. We have Perc Pad left, Perc Pad right. Those are the audio outputs. So that's how you've been hearing so far. That's how you've been hearing the sounds that are pre-programmed into the unit. Talking, that's my microphone. But these tracks down here are all MIDI tracks. So if I go to the first one here, SoCal, you see that there's this kind of, this is called a plugin. This plugin is called Drum Kit. And so once we get around to playing around with MIDI sounds, this Drum Kit plugin is what's actually going to be making the sound, not the Total Percussion Pad. If that doesn't make sense right now, let me see if I can demonstrate how this all comes together. At least right at the beginning here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to play a little bit. And the sound that you're going to be hearing is our highly modified built-in kit number 19 called Machine, the one that we modified, I think, in the 3rd video in this series. And that sounds like this. All right, so that should sound relatively familiar. Again, if you've been following the series of videos, we modified this kit to sound like that, based with these 12 triggering surfaces, basically. We modified it to sound like that in the 3rd video. So if you don't understand how we got to this point, go back and check that video out. If you take a look at my computer screen, ignore all of this stuff down here. What you were just hearing is this. Again, because we were using the built-in sounds, I was hitting the pads, that was triggering the built-in sounds, and those sounds are being sent out of the 2 1/4-inch outputs into my audio interface, into my computer, and that's the result. Now, if I switch from hearing these 2 channels right here, Perc Pad left and Perc Pad right, if I mute those and I unmute SoCal, what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to play pretty much the exact same thing, the same type of patterns on the exact same pads, and it's going to sound totally different because now we're bypassing the built-in sounds that are in the Total Percussion Pad, and what you're actually going to be hearing is this drum kit plugin. So that sounds like this. So why does that sound so different? Well, first of all, it sounds different because it's not the same samples being played. But why does the layout work so differently? Again, the reason why is because this drum kit plugin is what's actually creating the sound. So now let me go into the MIDI kind of sub-menu on this SoCal channel. And what you see is, you see a piano roll, just like on a MIDI keyboard. And you see that there's all these sorts of words, basically, that are describing what sound is assigned to which note. So what I have to do at this point is I have to figure out which pad is being registered as which note on this piano roll. That's all I have to do. So I think that this is the bass drum sound. And I was correct. Watch right here. You'll see a little black circle pop up. It's a little, because these MIDI notes are so short, it's not that easy to see, but you can see a little black circle kind of blip every now and again. Anyway, so that's the kick. Now, if I wanted to change what sound was assigned to this pad or any of the other triggering, any of the other trigger pads, including the hi-hat, the hi-hat trigger, what I'm going to do, if you take a look at the top camera, right now the home button is blue, so I'm looking at the home screen. If I go to Kit Set, I have three kind of menu options here. If I go to the third one, so if I press F3, that's going to get me to the MIDI menu, the MIDI sub-menu. Now, right now, it says that the MIDI note number of this pad 7 is 36. 36 is obviously registering as C1 on our piano roll. Now, if I increase the MIDI note number to 37, I've just gone to this note here, C sharp, which is the snare side stick. If I go to 38, now hopefully you just saw that little black circle on D1, which is snare center. So that says to me that each increase of one MIDI note number increases the note that it's being read as by 1/2 step. So it'd be the equivalent of going from C to C sharp to D sharp to E to F, F sharp G, G sharp A, so on and so forth. So if you think about it in that type of layout based on a keyboard, then it should be able to line up pretty quickly. What that also means is that if I wanted to get, much like the modifications we made to this kit when we were using the pre-programmed sounds, if I want to make this setup a little bit easier to play like an acoustic kit, all I have to know is what MIDI note numbers align with which sounds on the piano roll. So I know that the kick is MIDI note number 36. So I'm going to hit my bass drum trigger, and I'm going to go from MIDI note number 60 to MIDI note number 36. And now I have a bass drum. Now, I know this, I've used this kit a bunch, and I know that I like not only the snare center, which is MIDI note number 38, but the snare rim shot, which I think is going to be MIDI note number 40. Yeah, okay, so let's go to MIDI note number 40. There we go. So now I can go Excellent. Now, I only need these 3 toms. These 2 toms are going to sound the same even though they're triggering different MIDI notes. That's just how they set this particular, that's how they set this particular piano roll up. And when you're trying to play this kit on an actual keyboard, that is helpful, especially for doing really fast rolls. It's helpful to have 2 different notes to be able to play that on. Anyway, that's completely off topic. So I don't need, long story short, I don't need this tom sound. I would like an open hi-hat sound. So what I'd like to do right now is I'm gonna actually move the closed hi-hat sound. On this pad, I can see it's MIDI note number 42. I wanna move that up to this pad. So let me go 42. And what I also wanna do is I wanna move Okay, I lied. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to move the closed hi-hat what we're actually going to do is we're going to move the closed hi-hat to here. So let's go back. This one is going to become 42. And I want this one to be the open hi-hat. There we go. Because I think that the hi-hat, the foot trigger, yeah, excuse me, the hi-hat foot trigger pedal is already set to be the hi-hat foot, which I think is right here. So this is where the hi-hat trigger is registering on the piano roll. The nice thing is that this kit is already set up so that if I just hit the open hi-hat, it'll trigger that sample and it'll play all the way through. But if I hit the open hi-hat and then I hit the hi-hat trigger, it'll stop the open hi-hat wherever it is. And so that's how I can get that sound. So now I have all right, so now I got a ride up there. Let me get a crash cymbal over here. Let me also figure out where the crash is. Ooh, there's 2 crashes. That's pretty cool. All right, so let's see. Crash right is not that far off. There we go. And now let me go to crash left down here. That's pretty cool. There we go. Cool. So now I got 2 different crash sounds, and maybe I'll make that the ride bell, for example. There we go. So now I have Okay, so anyway, you see that, I think you understand the point. Now, one very important step is if you want the Total Percussion Pad to remember all of those changes, of course you have to go OK and make it save successfully. One of the other cool things that we can do with this new MIDI capability is because we're bypassing all of the sounds that are built into this unit and we're just using it as a MIDI trigger, we can actually trigger any sound that we might want. So, for example, if I go down, if I go from SoCal over here to this new track called Evolving Currents. Now you can see that the plugin that's going to be creating the sounds is called Alchemy. Alchemy is a synthesizer. So it's not going to sound anything like a drum set. It's going to sound much more like a keyboard. But all of our different triggering surfaces are still going to trigger different notes. Now, because I only have 12 notes, if you include the hi-hat foot trigger, because I only have 12 notes, I'm going to have to think about what 12 notes I need in order to pull off whatever I'm trying to play using the Total Percussion Pad. So in that way, it's unlike using a MIDI keyboard where, first of all, I have 49 keys that are built in, but I also have the ability to change octaves. I don't have that capability here, so I have to be careful about which notes I have. So that's pretty cool. You can use this to trigger some truly wild sound. Now, the other thing you can do, if you go back to, for example, if you go back to, which video was that? I think it was the 5th video in the series. It was the video where we talked about building our own user kit from scratch. And we demonstrated the ability to create. Well, what I did was I replicated a particular marimba section from a Herd of Bison song called "The Nomad" by programming the notes into the Total Percussion Pad and my external triggers to be able to replicate that section. Now, if I wanted to do the same thing, but I had a better marimba sample in a software instrument that I wanted to use, and I didn't want to use the sound that was built into this unit, if I connect the unit via MIDI, I can do that. So this, if you take a look at the screen here, this marimba channel with this sampler plugin is exactly the same sound that you hear in the album version of the Nomad. Originally, when I recorded that, I was playing it on a MIDI keyboard, but I can now trigger that sound using the Total Percussion Pad. I don't have the notes laid out the same way, so it's not going to sound identical right now, but now this type of capability. Oh, and by the way, you can also use the feet. This type of capability can be especially useful if you're less of a live performing drummer and more of a producer. Let's say you're someone who works with hip hop music a lot, and you have a bunch of software instruments that give you the 808s that you really need for the type of stuff that you're doing. If you plug this in via MIDI, if you plug this unit in via MIDI, you'll be able to still play the 808s that you have, but you'll be able to play them live as though you're playing a real drum set. So that's pretty cool. You can also, if you once again take a look at the screen, you can also use the MIDI capabilities to trigger any software instruments that you've added to your computer system. So in this case, this plugin right here called Equator 2 is one that I bought from a company called Rolly, the same people who make the piano, this keyboard here, and the C-board, which is underneath of these towels. So I can use the MIDI capabilities of the Total Percussion Pad to trigger Equator 2. And I can also use the MIDI capabilities to trigger, once again, take a look at the screen. We have this track here called Tubulum, and the plugin there is called Q-Sampler. Q-Sampler is something that's built into Logic Pro, but the sound that you're hearing is actually a sample that I made that I added to Logic Pro. The Tubulum is an instrument that I built out of PVC pipes. You've probably seen people. I think Ellis Tapario had at least one video where he had an instrument made out of PVC pipe that he played with spatulas. So basically, I built one of those and I sampled it, and it sounds like that. Now, if I increase the notes, so on and so forth. So you can also use the MIDI capabilities of this unit to trigger any samples that you've created, as long as those samples are in a software instrument in whatever DAW you're using. There's one more kind of MIDI capability that I'd like to demonstrate here before we finish. Just give me 1 second. All right, and we're back. There's one other way that you can get MIDI information to be sent out of this unit if you don't have an audio interface that has a 5-pin MIDI capability. And that is, if you go back to the first video in the series, the unboxing video, we did cover all of the various jacks and outputs and things like that that are built into this unit. So you'll be able to see what I'm talking about when I say 5-pin MIDI. Or the other one that you have is you have digital MIDI, which I think is called, sorry about that. It's called, on the unit here, it's called USB-B. That's the output. And as long as you have a digital MIDI cable, you can plug it directly into your computer and be able to access all the same functionality that we've talked about. So I can still play the tubulum. I can still play my Equator 2 sounds. I love that sound. I can still play my MIDI marimba sound. I can still play, you know, built-in MIDI sounds like evolving currents. And I can still play, you know, MIDI drum kits. And it actually seems like, right, because we hit the save button on the Total Percussion Pad, the Total Percussion Pad has now saved the MIDI note information that we modified in order to make the SoCal kit more comfortable to play on this unit. So I can actually play this kit the exact same way that we were doing just a minute ago. So that's pretty cool. So that's again a not so brief overview of the MIDI capabilities of the Ludwig Total Percussion Pad. Have fun with that. Continue having fun with that if you've already started messing around with it. So enjoy.